We simply cannot accept these elevated spending levels because that means we're increasing domestic agencies by 24% on base over 2 years. We're just not going to do that. That's $1 trillion over the budget window of extra spending. So we're trying to get that spending down. Low-hanging fruit to us as conservatives is very different than what the president is. We're going to have to negotiate some level between where we are and where he is, and we're heading in our direction, so we're pretty pleased with that.
So, you know, it's interesting that you say that because, I mean, we're talking about a spending freeze, which the president said we are right now. That's where we are, a spending freeze. But it's hard to see it as a spending freeze, I guess, given the fact that we've seen so much spending in 2010.
This is a spending floor to lock in the massive spending gains they got through Congress the last 2 years. So freeze may be a euphemism for something else. It's really a floor to lock in gains. We want to take those gains away.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. So no matter how much you cut out discretionary spending, Representative, it's not going to mean much unless you really tackle the entitlements. Talk to us about how serious you want to be in terms of restructuring Social Security, restructuring Medicare.
So we have to deal with the drivers of our debt. The drivers of our debt are our entitlement programs. There's no two ways about it. You can't escape that math. What's disappointing to us is the president, even after having a fiscal commission to deal with this, punted on the issue, disavowed his fiscal commission, and didn't propose a single reform to get this deficit and debt under control. So where he failed to lead, we're going to pick up, and we're going to lead. We're going to bring a budget to Congress in April that will deal with these entitlements, that will get this deficit and debt under control. We just think it's the right thing to do, and more importantly, Maria, the sooner you act to get this debt and deficit under control, the better off everybody is. The better off our economy is, the better we can get to job creation, economic growth, but also the smarter our reforms would be, the more gradual and phased in they would be. The more you can guarantee people in and near retirement don't see severe disruptions in their lives and changes occur to prospective generations. It's a smart thing to do. We want to preempt European kinds of austerity measures, cuts to current seniors, tax increases that slow down your economy. We don't want to go down that path. That's the path the president's putting us on. So we're going to propose something very different than what he has, and we're going to do that in April.
So from a practical standpoint, what does that mean? I mean, Chris Christie the other day said, okay, I said it, and I haven't been, killed or anything. Yeah. We have to change the retirement age. Is this the kind of measure that you would see implemented? What are the real practical measures that can actually make a dent?
Well, I've been saying things like that for years, and I'm still standing here as well. And I come from a district that is very evenly politically divided. So I think Americans are ready for the truth. I think they're ready to be spoken to like adults, not like children. So I don't think the old political demagoguery on entitlement reform really is going to work anymore. I'm not going to get into the details of what our budget will do because we're releasing that in April. We're still running our numbers. We're still getting our numbers in shape. But yes, we're going to address the drivers of our debt, and we are going to propose bold entitlement reforms that are smart and necessary to get this debt and deficit under control and get the economy growing today.
And you said you are not going to rubber stamp any spending increases by the president. You're sticking to that? What does that mean exactly? I mean, what are the spending increase proposals that you're not going to take?
A 24% increase in domestic discretionary spending over 2 years. You throw stimulus on top, that was an 84% increase. This passage of this CR is another proof that we're gaining momentum on our side of the equation by not rubber stamping these elevated levels. We already are now $4 billion below these levels, and we want to go farther.
And you call it a tidal wave of debt facing the U.S., according to your figures. The national debt will soar to 800% of GDP?
Those aren't our figures. Those are the Congressional Budget Office figures. The model that the Congressional Budget Office uses to project the economy going forward crashes in 2037, meaning the CBO can't conceive of any way in which the American economy continue past 2037 because of the dire debt, because of the debt burden that it's placing on the economy. So those are CBO numbers which show we have our own debt crisis coming in America. And so the smart thing to do is preempt this debt crisis, get this under control so we can prosper today and leave our children with a more prosperous future tomorrow.
Which is why your state is seeing what it's seeing, Wisconsin, in the throes of battle right now, the governor trying to change collective bargaining. Tell me about that. Where do you stand on that?
Well, obviously I support what Scott Walker's trying to do. He's trying to get at the root cause of spending problems in Wisconsin. He's trying to balance our budget. He doesn't want to raise taxes because that will chase jobs out of the state. He's trying to get the budget balanced and grow the economy. And so one of the things that I think is pretty modest is asking among public employees some shared sacrifice. And if you take a look at what he's actually proposing, it's fairly modest. State workers will have more collective bargaining rights and benefits than federal workers have. They'll have better benefit packages on health care than what federal workers have. And with the collective bargaining, he's not repealing it, he's simply modifying it which is far more generous than what many other states already do for their state workers, but he's trying to give local government the tools they need to actually balance their budgets, so that local government, county executives, mayors, don't have to lay people off or cut essential services. He's trying to give them the tools so they can get this kind of modest shared sacrifice among their public employees to balance their budgets as well.
Richard Trumka says the goal here is to break the back of unions.
No, not at all. Not at all. First of all, they still have collective bargaining rights, just not for benefits. Other states don't even have collective bargaining rights for public unions. Many states are repealing all collective bargaining rights for public unions. What Scott Walker is doing is simply modifying it so we can actually balance the budget by bringing public union worker benefits more in line with their private sector and federal counterparts.
So do public employees, would you say, make more money, have better benefit packages than private employees?
Well, yeah, they do. I mean, that's not a judgment. That's a statistical fact. I think it's something like 46 states they have more. In Wisconsin, they have much more generous benefit packages. They pay near nothing to the pension benefits and about 6% to their health care benefits. Federal workers pay 25% to their health care benefits, 25% of their premiums. So what he's trying to do is bring their benefit packages more in line with their private sector counterparts and a little closer toward where their federal counterparts are as well.
Representative Ryan, let me just push back on one thing here, because Moody's Analytics chief economist Mark Zandi, as you know,
yes, it's been pushed back on me for a couple of days now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He says, look, the economy's still too weak to cut spending so dramatically. Yes, we have a problem with the deficit. Yes, we have a problem because interest payments are coming at us with this tidal wave of debt. But a $61 billion budget cutting plan is going to be a problem for an economy that is looking at a recovery just gaining traction. He says that the economy still needs targeting, still needs stimulus, and targeting all of these cuts is going to mean fewer jobs. What's your response to that?
$61 billion out of a $3.8 trillion budget is going to do that. 42% of our budget is borrowed money. It's crowding up private sector capital. But more importantly, this multiplier effect, this methodology, this economic doctrine was the same doctrine, the same multipliers that they used to say that stimulus was going to keep unemployment from going above 8%. I think other reputable economists, Robert Barrow at Harvard, John Taylor at Stanford, have thoroughly discredited these multiplier models. I don't think this is accurate. We've had hearings where Mark Zandi's come and testified, and I respectfully disagree with the conclusions. And not only is it something that I believe, it's something that the evidence shows is not true.
And you're talking about long-term fixing the country's fiscal issues and the debt and the deficit that we face. When would you expect, if in fact your plan is the plan to move forward on, when would you expect a balanced budget?
I don't know the answer to that question yet because we don't have our baseline from CBO yet. We'll get that in about 2 weeks, and then we will start running numbers to actually get the answer to that question. So I literally don't know the answer to that question. But most economists agree. Bernanke, the sooner we put in place a plan to get this deficit and debt under control, the faster today our economy can grow. Today's high deficits are nothing more than tomorrow's high tax increases and interest rate increases. So the sooner we can get this fixed and get a plan in place, the more job creation and economic growth we can have today.
If we